Welcome to episode 232 of the Necronomicon.com. Tickets are now on sale as the official StokerCon pre-party returns. Spirited Giving, a horror-themed fundraiser, will take place May 29th at the San Diego Central Library. We will have live readings by Clay McLeod Chapman, Jamie Flanagan, Bridget D. Brave, Vincent V. Cava, Danger Slater, and I. Zhang, as well as a live performance by YouTube horror narrator Mr. Creepypasta. And all of that is followed by meet and greets, book signings, photo ops, and more. All while raising money for the San Diego Library Foundation, particularly youth reading programs and the Books Unbanned initiative. If you're planning on attending StokerCon or you're in the area, you do not want to miss this event. It's going to be one hell of a night. Grab tickets now at www.spirited-giving.com and help horror leave a lasting impact on the community of San Diego. And I want to send a quick thank you to Fright Rags, one of our top sponsors for Spirited Giving 2024, May 29th, San Diego, California. Fright Rags has been bringing you the best in horror apparel and accessories since 2003, offering a wide range of products for your favorite creature features, slasher flicks, and cult classics. Officially licensed collections include titles like John Carpenter's The Thing, The Evil Dead, Creep Show, Jaws, the Halloween franchise, and so many more. Head on over to fright-rags.com. Make sure to sign up for their SMS and email newsletter to never miss a drop. Listeners get 10% off when they use the code NECRO10, all caps, at checkout. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now, or at least I'm mostly James Sabata. You see, I was in an accident and lost both my middle fingers, and they replaced them with the middle fingers of Charles Manson.
I'm Doug Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of the podcast that you're listening to. And kids, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by the idea of creating a movie that is made in the same year with the same title that's also a horror comedy. So what I'm trying to tell you before we get into this episode is that I initially watched the wrong Body Parts movie made in 1991 or released in 1991, along with this movie named Body Parts, released in 1991 as a horror comedy.
I mean, that's pretty fantastic.
That is awesome.
We'll come back to that. Let me get to our guest really fast. Clay McLeod Chapman is back. Clay, we love having you. Thank you for coming back.
Welcome.
Hello. And I'm going to start off with an apology that I made you watch 2 Body Parts. One would have been...
Well, there is a third.
Oh, no.
Finish the trilogy.
I'm thinking about it.
Oh, man. All right. So, Clay, before we get too far, why don't you tell our listeners a bit about yourself and some of your upcoming projects and stuff?
Hi, everybody. I'm Clay. And I don't know, I'm just a dude who loves horror movies and doing spooky things and talking about movies that I don't know, that nobody likes to talk about. Like I just friggin' love this movie. I write books. I write other things. Some people like those books and those other things, but yeah, I just write goofy, stupid stuff and try to get it published.
I love it.
Is that the best intro that anyone has ever done on this?
It's pretty close, if not, yeah.
It may be.
So legitimately, first I wanna say you're gonna be at Spirited Giving in San Diego the night before StokerCon, our big fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And I'm incredibly excited to have you there. I have not gotten to personally be in the room during one of your readings, but I've seen videos and I've heard legends, and I cannot wait to be there for this.
Well, I mean, let's keep the bar low to begin with.
I've heard it's terrible, and no, I'm kidding.
No, that's wonderful to hear. Why did you ask me? Why? Because I remember when I first heard about Spirited Giving, and it was like Gabino Iglesias, Gemma Amor, Stephen Graham Jones, friggin' fraggity frack, God, just people that I would want to see.
Are you not aware that you're a name, man? Come on.
No, but I mean,
no.
That's those are that's like getting the band together. That's hardcore.
It was a good night.
I am terrified. I'm just so nervous. I'm just going to be completely frank and just say I just want you to sell as many tickets as you need to sell to make you feel like it's worth your time, because I swear to God, I don't know who those people are, but I hope they come, because I'm scared.
All right, kids, what you just heard was this thing called imposter syndrome. Clay, if you need me to take off my top again for this event,
it wasn't at the
I'm
last
more than
one.
willing to.
Don tried to auction off his body at the last one.
Is that what gets people in the door?
It was $20 per button, and I loosened the button. The guy brought $20 back to us for the fundraiser.
I don't think you actually donated that. No, I'm just kidding. Well, but
I'll be on the street corner, just buttons. Anyone take a button?
Let me legitimately answer your question. I came to you the first time, honestly, because I was trying to do Spirited Giving in my dream location, and it did not work out in New York. And I came to you because I had seen some videos, and I legitimately laughed watching your performance, because it's so energetic and fun. But that was only about halfway on my reasons. My real reasons for every single person I picked have nothing to do with how they write or how they read or how much I think they can bring people in. My legitimate reason is everything that I hear about you. And when I hear that you are the kind of person that I hear that you are, I say, Clay needs to be involved. And that is my legitimate answer. That is true of every single guest that I've asked both years.
That's awesome. I mean, that's great, because that's the roster that you have for this year. I mean, it's amazing how, I don't know, you just see these authors, and you want to believe that they're good people too. I want to believe that I'm a good person. But if this is the vote of approval, then that feels good. Now we just have to make it, a good night. No pressure, but it's got to be a good night, right?
It'll be a good night.
Okay. Oh my God, that's right. It's like a Lollapalooza. It just starts and then it just goes all day, right? What is the official?
So doors open at 3:00. And if it's like last time, then everyone, this is how little I know about the event before we get there. If it's like last time, literally for the first hour or so, everybody's just catching up with everybody. You're flying in for StokerCon or driving in or whatever. You haven't gotten to see your friends in at least a couple months since Ghoulish or whatever other con you went to. And, our last one was really like the first con people went to post-pandemic, or at least as the whole horror community.
Yeah.
And so it was just everybody going, oh my God, I get to meet you in real life, or, oh wow, I haven't seen you in 3 years. How have you been? And it's just such a cool half an hour to an hour right there, right? Yeah. Then we start the show, and authors do some readings, and everybody brings something different, which is what I love about it. Like Gabino, when he did his, he pulled out the bolt cutters and read a certain scene from The Devil Takes You Home.
Yeah.
And watching that crowd react was incredible. Stephen Graham Jones comes up and he brings one of his friends, and they read a story together. And just watching that chemistry and that joy that he had was worth more to me than anything else that he could have done. It was it's seeing a different side of authors you adore. What we put in books is one thing, and who we are, no matter which direction that goes, is another thing. And allowing people to see that side of authors that they love is one of the best parts of Spirited. And then, of course, we hopefully raise a lot of money and help people out. Last time we did the volunteer fire department that saved the Stanley Hotel during the Colorado wildfires. Amazing. And this time we raised I want to say 22% of their annual budget or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. This time we partnered with the Library Foundation San Diego, who raises funds for all of the libraries in the San Diego area. And they are very big on the Books Unbanned initiative, which is fighting censoring. I can talk, trust me. And it basically allows any teen from, I don't remember what age it starts at. We'll pretend I do. We'll say it's 15-ish, up to age 26 to get a library card through San Diego or Brooklyn or Seattle and a couple other libraries that are involved. You get a card through them instead of your local library, and you're able to access anything that might have been banned, censored, kicked out of your local areas. And it's just a way to make sure people are able to get books that they can't get any other way. But in the in the climate we're in, it's a big deal.
Yeah. Amazing. I can't wait. It's going to be here before we know it. This is happening tomorrow.
Yeah, it feels that way. Yes.
Pretty much.
And then, of course,
and I'll see you there.
And then, of course, we have an anthology that goes with that, and you are in that as well with an amazing short story that I adored.
Jesus, oh man, I just remembered what I wrote. Oh God, that is so. I mean, yeah.
I literally don't even know how to talk about it, so we won't. We'll just say it's amazing.
He also won't talk about it because other than saying how great it is, as far as anybody else, anyone that James says he liked, he's not blowing any smoke up you. He's literally telling you how he felt about it. Yeah, I've asked him well, what's so and so story about? I can't tell you because we haven't put the book. I'm like, fucker, you can tell me. It's nope, I can't tell you. I'm like, son of a bitch. It's partially to make sure I don't get distracted and do something I'm not supposed to be doing other than school.
Yep.
But it's also James, whether he does this by design or just instinctively, it's I want to make sure that everybody sees the finished product at the same time or has the opportunity at the same time.
Yeah.
It's also there's part of it which is ironic if you listen to this show. I adore spoilers and they don't ruin things for me at all. If anything, I enjoy things more after I've had spoilers and get to watch them. And I know I'm alone in that and I'm fine with that. And I absolutely can't do it to other people. I don't want to take a single moment from you because you're not me and I don't want to ruin that. But going back, I just want to say Shadows in the Stacks is the anthology. It's 21 short stories from 21 authors who all came together for this book just to raise some more money for the Library Foundation and the Books Unbanned initiative. And I'm excited that you're in it, Clay.
Shortwave books is phenomenal too. They're great. So I feel
absolutely
it's a good. Keep it in the family. 21 authors just sounds like that's a chunky book.
Yeah, it's big. It's I think it clocked in near 100,000 words totally.
Wow. There you go.
But back to Shortwave, you've had some chapbooks with them and you have a new book coming from them as well, correct?
Yeah. In July, as a matter of fact. It's called Stay on the Line, and it's like a little cute little novelette, like a teeny tiny little novel. I don't know, I don't know if we're creating places to like put new books, but it's not a short story, it's not a novella, but it's like somewhere in between. But it has these beautiful, beautiful illustrations by Trevor Henderson, who is amazing. And I feel very fortunate that he lent his talents to bring this thing, elevate it to a higher level. It's great. It's gonna look pretty spooky.
What's the book about?
What is it about? It's about a small coastal town in Virginia, where I'm from, that gets hit by a hurricane and really kind of devastates, like it takes its toll on this town, and a lot of people are, kind of left in the aftermath of the hurricane and are trying to rebuild their lives. And, some of those people have to do it with folks that they have lost. And there is, in fact, a telephone booth, an old school, freestanding, disconnected, unserviced telephone booth that somehow miraculously, perhaps supernaturally, survives the hurricane. And lo and behold, when people start talking, like picking up the phone, they can talk to people that they lost in the hurricane. Yeah, right?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I loved the placeholder cover that Alan from Shortwave used. It was just beautiful. And
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like Alan he's almost like eerily, like his design mind is oddly supernatural to me. Like it's like so, like he does something so well with, like, nearly every friggin' cover that I see of his. Like I'm just like, this is the perfect cover or the perfect
Yep.
design. It's like if the writer's responsibility is just like delivering an amazing book, he pushes it even further by delivering a great package. Like, I don't want that to sound somehow like other than like what other people do, but like I just feel like Shortwave and what Alan is doing somehow, like he's just like pushing the packaging and pushing the design of the books in such a way that, like, it just, I don't know, like he's bringing his A game. Everybody else has to, like,
even with the anthology, like the one that he used before we had a cover was like a library card. And it was beautiful. It was so nostalgic to me. It was like just that exact library card from when we were kids, And what I loved about it is, instead of dates for when people checked out, he just put the date of release over and over again, but it was like stamped on in different ways or different colors. And it was just so perfect. And I think that what you're saying is exactly what I feel. It's that Alan somehow looks at a project and he's able to pull out something that you didn't tell him, that you didn't know was in your head.
Yeah.
And he somehow rips that out of you and just makes it. And you're like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Totally. I feel like he needs to do variant covers, kind of like what they do with comic books, where it's just like, if you have a kind of alternate, like a B issue or like a secondary printing where he takes those placeholder covers, because not to knock the, what the actual covers are, which are amazing in of themselves. He has this problem where he makes too many awesome covers, and you can call them placeholders, but they are art. Like they are these amazing things that like deserve their own time in the sun. God damn it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, I suppose that brings us to the film, unless you had anything else that you want to push that we haven't touched yet.
We're just hawking the wares, man.
And that's what we're here for. That's how they find out,
No, I feel good. I don't buy a book or 2 or 10.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So Body Parts. Why did you pick this film?
Because it's the best movie ever made.
It's fantastic.
It is a phenomenal film. I'm gonna I'm gonna show my naivete and my forgetfulness for the moment. But like, what is the criteria that you give us to pick these movies? Is there a criteria, or is it just like, hey, pick a movie?
In other seasons, the criteria was Don knows exactly why I'm saying that. In other seasons, it was kind of, obviously social commentary is important. It has to have something to say. Otherwise, what are we going to talk about for an hour or whatever? It has to be available for rent and streaming, which is still a rule as well. And I wanted it to be horror adjacent at that point, whatever that means to you. And I mean, we covered stuff that people don't think is horror at all. And we've had this conversation on here repeatedly, most recently, probably in our Tu Wong Fu episode, of how horror is individualized. So this season, I went, everything's ending. It doesn't matter what we do. And either you're along for the ride at this point, or you're probably not joining this late. We're like 250 episodes in or something, So I went, like, what is something that means something to our guests? Because I did handpick our guests this season. I went through past guests as well as a couple people I had never been able to have on the show. And I went to people that I knew would not only bring it, but would give me movies I haven't seen that I would probably adore. And I gave you... Oh, absolutely. I love this movie. I had never seen it, but oh my God, I love it now.
Oh my God.
And so my very long answer to you is I gave you no criteria at all this season.
And Don, did you like, which version of Body Parts did you like better?
I will say this. These work as a great double feature. I definitely like the intended one more than the other version. And that's nothing against the other version, because there is a place for campy horror comedies. But as far as the quality, the two different stories. And the third Body Parts movie is actually a documentary, which would be very good pairing with the other movie, because it talks about the representation of women and the way in which their bodies are used in films, I don't know, that to minimize women to their flesh is really the crux of the argument.
So very, very kind of elevated, nowhere near. We're going. If it's Kaufman documentary and Eric Red, we have that is a spectrum of, that is a range.
It most definitely is.
I love, like, am I going to say Body Parts is one of my favorite films? I don't know if I can go that far, but I will say this movie means so much to me. And I'm so glad you allowed me to pick it, because it has personal meaning to me. I am obsessed with its filmmaker. And I find it to be an enthralling, like I've watched it several times, and every time I watch it, it touches all those pleasure spots for me. So yeah, I feel like whenever you want to start talking about it, I will just go, because like this movie, I was made for this movie. I think I've been brought onto this world just to talk about Body Parts.
I love that. For me, I didn't know what we were getting into, but I saw the poster and I went, yeah, sure, we'll do this, because it's a crazy poster. It's like a guy who's made of all these different body parts. And then, there's just a couple scenes on the internet that like just the still shot. I was like, yeah, we have to do this movie. I'm going to love this. And then I read the spoilers like I always do. And I went, it sounds all right. And then I watched it, and holy shit, this movie was also made for me. I cannot believe I haven't been watching this for 30 plus years. I feel like I've really missed some great moments in my life by not being able to share this with friends because I didn't watch it till now. So I'm going to make up for that.
And Clay, that says something because this is a young man who did not watch Jaws until what, 2 summers ago? Never saw it till 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We're still on that, huh?
I'm never going to let go of that. Never going to let go of that.
If it helps, Jonathan Jans's expertise made up for my inexperience. Yes, Clay, what were you going to say?
These movies find you. You don't have to watch it when you're young. Like Jaws is just waiting for you. It's ready. When it's your time, it's your time. And it was your time for Body Parts. And that's all that matters. It's like you can be 12, you could be 20, you could be 200. It like Body Parts is just there on Amazon waiting for you to rent it. And I think that's saying something.
I love it. All right. One more thing before we jump in. I heard that you had an amazing day today, Clay.
Did I have an amazing day today? I saw Imaginary before coming onto this, and I don't think you need to continue this podcast just so that we can talk about Imaginary on a subsequent season, because the less we say about Imaginary, probably the better. But that said, I had it was funny. Like I got to go, I was invited to I live in New York, I'm in Brooklyn, and, every so often I'll have an opportunity to speak to like a local school. Sometimes it's a middle school, sometimes it's a high school. It's very rarely, they don't allow me in elementary schools, but it's basically a chance to kind of talk about writing, either publishing or comics and films and stuff. And I totally got a surprise. Like this, I don't even know what is the proper way to say it, but like the city of New York gave me a citation of citizenship, a citizen, like a citizen citation, which makes it sound like a parking ticket, but it's like it was like an award. I don't know. It's like a certificate for like being a good New Yorker. It was like hey, the city of New York wants to say we see you for what you're doing in these schools, and here's a embossed piece of paper that says so. It was really sweet. Like the librarians, like the school librarians kind of did it. They had to go through this like nothing in New York City moves efficiently or quickly. So they I don't know how long it had to take them to do this, but it's something that they had been planning, and it was a very touching, special thing, and I feel very honored. So I have
congratulations.
Yeah, right. I have a little. It totally looks like a diploma. Like it's got the the embossed it just has the fancy schmancy paper, like the gold. I don't know. I just feel like, as someone who never gets stuff like that, it was very touching.
I really wanted to point it out because it goes back to what you asked me about Spirited. And when I saw your tweet about it today, and I missed my joke, I was going to say a little blue birdie told me. But when I saw your post about it today, I was like, yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about right there. And I don't know, man, it just, it warms my heart to see the horror community doing good and also being recognized for it. So I just wanted to throw it out there.
Man, well,
I will. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned Jonathan Jens, and I just think of all these, I just got back from this thing called the Scarelastic Book Fair.
Yes.
In McCordsville, Indiana. And it's just Jonathan was there, Andy Davidson was there, Cynthia Pelayo was there, Ronald Malfi was there, Daniel Krauss was there. I mean, Jennifer Kiefer was there, all these amazing people. And I do think it's that thing of, I don't know if it's particular to the genre, genre authors, horror authors, being nice people. I don't know if you can say that of I don't know if those literary fiction people are nice people or not. But
Damn those romance writers. Yeah.
They're just like, they're sweethearts, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm always jealous of Scholastic. I really want to get there sometime. Laurel doesn't stop talking about how amazing it is, and I'm always incredibly jealous. And then our good friend, comedian Brent Terhune, also got to go, and he said it was just a blast, just meeting everybody and walking around and looking at everything and buying some books. So very cool.
Fun. It was a good time. I hope they just keep doing it, because it seems to be like the first one of the first, like that's the year that starts the season, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then James does things like he inboxes me, DMs me pictures of people that we both know hanging out, and I just think like, this is bullshit. I should be able to go.
That's just me trying not to be alone, feeling that exact same way.
I know I know you're doing that when you send it to me. I'm like, asshole.
Oh my God, the FOMO. Like, it's amazing how, like, you know, I don't know who, if anyone can go to all of these different things, but as soon as there's one out there that I'm not at, I'm just like, oh, I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just impossible to do everything.
Absolutely. All right, let's give you your wish. Talk to me about body parts. It can be the movie, it can be body parts, whatever you want to do, go for it.
Okay. I was 13 years old. I was in Richmond, Virginia. I was at summer camp, and for some reason, I was able to convince one of my counselors to take me on a like Saturday, it was probably like a Sunday afternoon matinee at the Cloverleaf Shopping Center, the Cloverleaf Mall, Cineplex Odeon movie theater, like the Cineplex multiplex, whatever you call it. And we went to a matinee of Body Parts because it was opening weekend, and we couldn't go Friday and we couldn't go Saturday because we were at summer camp. And I was like, I like begged because I was like, even back then I was just like such a little horror film nerd, and I just needed to see this movie. Like, for some reason, if I didn't see it opening weekend, like the magic would have been lost. And this poor counselor, for whatever reason, took pity on me and drove me to see this movie, and it was phenomenal. I mean, like, it was revelatory in so many ways. The kind of bonus was I was 13, and this gets maybe a little creepy, I don't know, but like I was 13 and she was like maybe 18, I hope 18. But like we made out. Like totally, like it was bad. It was
like every kid's dream.
I mean, it was like, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not gonna kiss and tell. I'm not gonna name any names. Like, I don't know what the statute of limitations are on these things, but like, it like we like that was like the beginning of this quasi like that weird like, oh my God, is this like what are we now? Like all of a sudden, like, because I'm 13 and I'm like, oh my God, like I kissed this older woman. and it was at Body Parts. And like after the kind of long story short was that like we go back to summer camp. And of course we both get in like huge trouble. And it's like the head counselor is like, what the hell were you thinking leaving camp to go see a movie of all things? Like, we didn't tell them that we made out, but the whole, like the thing of just like, ditching summer camp and going, like, I don't know how much trouble she got in. I know I got a very stern talking to, but it was all for the sake of Body Parts. And we, the kind of epilogue to the story is that we kind of went on a couple dates after summer camp was over. She came to pick me up to go out, and my mom absolutely, like, she totally freaked because she was like, who is this who is this teenage woman that has come to our house to pick up my son? And like, I know that she was trying to be cutesy, and this is my mother not having the ability to either accept the notion. Like, my mom was trying to be cheeky and funny, and she like hid in a bush, like as this girl is coming to pick me up, and like I was freaking the heck out because I was just like, Mom, like because I knew that she was there, and like she was like, ha, 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 like doing that thing of like, like, but I think it was like her like trying to diffuse a situation that felt very awkward to begin with,
Right.
because it was like, how much should she should she like, when I was basically like, hey, I made a friend at camp. They want to like go pick me up, and like, and then my mom was like, well, who is this person? Like, who's going to pick you up? Are their parents going to pick you up? And I was kind of like, well, no, not really. Like, it's she's older. She was a counselor. And then my mom's like, wait a minute, what? And all of a sudden my mom kind of realized like, it's a woman, a young woman, older than me, who has a driver's license, who's coming to pick me up and do all of these things. And she panicked, and like her solution to the panic was to make a joke out of it and hide in a like. I just have this distinct memory, because this was in effect my first date, like my first proper, like, I'm getting picked up by someone else and we're going out. I can't even remember where we went, but I do remember just being like near shouting at my mom to like go inside, like go back inside. And she was just like, ha ha ha, like, like, isn't this silly? Like, isn't this funny? But like, she's totally freaking out. I'm totally freaking out. And here comes this girl, Angela. Oh my God. Like, it was like, yeah. So that was all the epilogue to Seeing Body Parts.
I just want to know, did your mom ever like find out that you had made out with this girl?
I mean, I maybe gave her that information at a certain point. I will cop to being a early bloomer and a bit of a I don't know, like just a bit of a horn dog, if I'm being totally frank. But like, she, like, this was my mom's kind of crash course, and like, okay, my son is a sexual creature, and like, I have to somehow figure out how to deal with that. Yeah,
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. This is my favorite story anyone has ever told us on this show.
It's all on my part.
My former favorite was actually a story I told when Adam Marcus came on the show, and I got to tell him that the movie that he made, My Boyfriend's Back, is what I watched when I lost my virginity. And there was just something so great about being able to tell him that. And you have eclipsed that. This is now my favorite story on this show.
Oh man!
All right. If I ever get the chance to meet Jewel, I'll tell her my story. I can't meet Jimmy Buffett now, so yeah.
Son of a sailor. He's in Margaritaville. He's out there, in the clouds. Boat drinks.
So then at some point you saw Body Parts for a second time and got to pay attention to the story.
Oh my God. I've watched Body Parts a dozen times. Beyond the fundamental hormonal pivotal kind of like awakening film for me, I genuinely believe it is a great event, great movie. Like, I want to go on record as saying I am obsessed with Eric Red, who is the writer director of Body Parts, and he's a very kind of complex, complicated artist who's had he's writing still, like, he's a novelist, and occasionally he'll write a film, that gets made. But in the 80s, Eric Red wrote some of my personal pivotal kind of benchmark horror films, which of course it starts with The Hitcher, Rutger Hauer, like that movie, C. Thomas Howell, Jennifer Jason Leigh, like that film. That movie is poetry. And then you have Near Dark, which is a kind of Western neo-vampire noir, directed by Catherine Bigelow, starring Lance Henriksen, pretty much starring everybody who was in the James Cameron kind of stable, Bill Paxton. I mean, just like a phenomenal film. Again, poetry. And then, I even have a soft spot for, hit Eric Red's other films like Blue Steel with Jamie Lee Curtis and Ron Silver, Conan Tate, but the kind of holy trinity for me is The Hitcher, Near Dark, and Body Parts. And I want like there to be a kind of fourth with Blue Steel, but like if I had to pick the three, it would be Body Parts, Near Dark, and The Hitcher. Like that run, like if I was responsible for films of that caliber, I would retire. I would never write ever again. I would say I've done it, and like I just like that's all it takes. I mean, working with Catherine Dunn is phenomenal. Like just I mean, goddamn, twice he worked with Catherine Dunn twice. Catherine Dunn directed Blue Steel. Like that's like Eric Red. I feel like the way you have to talk about Eric Red is that there is he's kind of a slightly problematic figure because there's this event that happened kind of in a latter point in his career with a car accident in LA that kind of remains one of these weird, slightly urban legendy things where I can't personally talk of it with any kind of validity or anything other than the articles that I've read when it was reported on at the time. But like prior to that, I mean, these movies they were quintessential 80s horror films that weren't slashers, that they went against the grain in so many ways. And I think really truly elevated the form of like horror filmmaking in ways that like I feel like they truly earn the notion of like a cult classic. And I call them cult films because like, we don't, horror is kind of a ghettoized genre, but like they're beautiful films. They're just beautiful, stunning films. And God, I just love them. I love them. And I really bow down to Eric Red because like he wrote these films that not only have kind of like a personal import on me and impact on me, but they're just genius movies. Yeah. That's my pitch on Eric Red.
I love it. And I absolutely agree. I guess for me, the biggest thing, this is going to be a total spoiler. So if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it right now and come back. For me, the kicker was the reveal that the head is still out there.
Yeah.
They do such a great job of not bringing it up while still making it completely plausible in this universe. And not only that, but it makes sense in this universe.
Yes.
And they do it with this great thing where they chop off his head and all the armed guards leave. And that is so simplistic and so powerful. There's no reason, even when you know the premise of this movie, to think, oh, I bet the head comes back. Like, it's so beautiful. And as much as I love the rest, that's what kicked it over the edge for me.
Okay, so there is this book. This movie is based on a book, a French novel called Choice Cuts. I don't know what the French what the actual title is, but in English it's translated into Choice Cuts, and it's by, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to pronounce their names, Pierre Boileau and Thomas Narcejac. I'm totally murdering those names, but it's like a duo. These two authors, these French authors, who I think they wrote this novel in the 60s, and what's crazy about these two guys, Bouillot and Narcejac, is that these two are responsible for the novel Vertigo. They're responsible for Diabolique. They're responsible for Eyes Without a Face. Like all of these movies, like all of these classic films are based on novels written by this duo, this dynamic duo, this super team of authors, French authors. And they wrote this book, Choice Cuts. And it's the kernel of the book that survived into the film is that it's that thing that you're talking about. It's that like a serial killer is death row inmate, his body is kind of severed and kind of given to whatever the organ donor, whatever the experiment, the transplant surgery is, and all of these other recipients now have body parts of this serial killer, and all of those people are being murdered. And it's not until the very end that you realize the head is still alive and is getting his body back. And I don't know, like I think it's just genius. And the way that the film, that Eric Red kind of takes that thread. And total sidebar, there was a time where Alfred Hitchcock had actually optioned Choice Cuts, and he was going to do it. He developed it for however long. Weird. So can you imagine the like alternate reality where like there's a version of Body Parts by Alfred Hitchcock? Like that would be insane. Yeah. But Eric Red got to it like decades later, after this one was in kind of development limbo for decades, and turned it into what he turned it into.
I don't know if I'd like a Hitchcock version. Like, I don't think that it could hit what this hit for me, and I feel weird saying that because I love Hitchcock's stuff. But yeah, like I'm tithinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know if he would do the things I liked about this.
It would end up being a 2.5-hour movie. Is what would where it would go.
I would bet it would be oddly restrained, and
really?
and I mean Hitchcock, to me, not that he exercises restraint as much as like I think that he would be coy about it, where I think the 91 Body Parts is operatic, and it is, and it kind of takes horror, the like what I think horror can really truly do, and what it's capable of doing, which is taking anything that is subtextual and just bringing it to the surface, just like elevating it so much that it feels like you're watching an opera. And
okay,
I think a lot of that has to do with the kind of the music. The score for this is beautiful. Loic Dicker, I think is how you say his name. This movie is melodrama. This movie is nothing is subtle about it. And I just love that. I just love the fact that it's like it's just so elevated that like there are emotions that they're just feeling, and like God bless Jeff Fahey, because he is just acting the hell out of this movie. And I just feel like, it's just so much tamped into like less than 90 minutes. I mean, the movie's like 88 minutes long. Like it's so short, and yet like not a second is wasted in this film.
Absolutely.
No. I think what Hitchcock probably would have done, because this is very telling of Hitchcock, is he would have been dating the wife character, or who was going to be playing the wife character, And then halfway through the film, he was going to say, let's change it. Let's go ahead and make body parts a female character. And we're just going to talk about the mutilation of something beautiful, because I'm upset with this lady who is not interested in me, just the same way as, the young lady I decided to terrorize with birds because she turned me down. So I tied the birds to her.
I don't want to know what he would do to torture his leading lady in this film. Tie body parts to her. God, this movie is amazing. Like, I'm just thinking about it, and like it, this is a Paramount film, if I'm remembering correctly, and there seemed to be this, like, every so often there are these films that get the big budget treatment. And I think, what would the budget of this be? Like 10 million? Like, definitely not like 100 million or even 50.
It was like 9.
Yeah, but like that is such a kind of like substantial. Like, I feel like this was a big budget movie that like got released in the dregs of the summer. It was an August release. It got torn up by critics. It did decent box office, but like, for me, it's a film that, like, I don't know, it has stamina in this way that, like, I just love that, like, in the 90s, like, this is the early 90s, so like we're having slasher fatigue. We're like bored of Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger. We haven't gotten yet to Screams or any of those films yet. So it's like that weird 90s in between zone, where like nobody knew what the next trend was going to be. And I don't know, like, it just feels like such a shot for the bleachers, like it's just so big, and it had the money to do it. And I feel like it actually has the feeling of a big budgeted film. They didn't skimp out on it,
No, and you bring up a really good point about that 90s fatigue of slashers, because it gets addressed, and this is going to be that connection between this film and another series. And in Bride of Chucky, Tiffany makes that comment when Chucky is about to stab, his victim, and she says, "It's the 90s. You need to be more creative. You can't just go around stabbing people." And the thing is, it's played as, as a joke and making fun of the trope, but it's also giving you an indication of, like, yeah, people want something different. So yeah, body horror itself in this sense is more highbrow in the critique that it's making, right? So it's about bodily autonomy, but it's also about don't ask any questions. Once you get this thing, the fact that this dead being, at least what we think at this time, this dead being was executed by the state because he was a serial killer. He was just a violent monster. And there's this, this moment where the doctors ask this question, where does evil reside? Where is it? Is it in the mind? Is it in the skin? Is it in tissue? Where is it? Right. So you're getting this great examination of how science, when it's not looking at the effects, isn't considering all the the downside to it, as far as like those people that are going to be impacted. Because as Dr. Agatha, I think, or Dr. Agnes makes that comment saying, like, we are making history here. You can't stand in front of progress. You can't stand in front of scientific achievement. And you think about all the horrible people who've used that excuse to do horrible experiments on people with that same rationale of, you can't stand in the way of scientific progress or medical progress or anything like that, but you shouldn't sacrifice people as part of it. And that's that's practically what happens, because this is a great retelling of Frankenstein. This is a great Frankenstein adaptation. That's an adaptation of a book that more than likely got some inspiration from Frankenstein, because there is this idea of like, who is the bad person? Is it the thing that's created, or is it the creator?
Yeah.
Whereas I don't feel any empathy or sympathy, for that matter, towards the doctor. Sadly, I feel a little bit of remorse for the killer, or at least the perceived killer, Fletcher, or whatever his name is. Because who's to say that he should have been, given this opportunity? And does he even want the opportunity? Is this something that somebody else wants to see? Kind of like the doctor in the new Halloween, where it's like, I want to see what Michael's gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about who he's gonna do it to. I want to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that total disregard for ethics, morality, anything else. It's the idea that I'm so laser focused on this thing, I can't think of what negative outcomes are possible.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the film is definitely trying to address a certain kind of philosophical quandary at a point where, like, I don't think many horror movies, that's actually not true. I think when horror movies try to kind of address something of this nature, of like, it either comes off too ham-fisted, or people don't give it kind of credit for exploring those kind of threads. And I think, certain filmmakers used to be able to do it, like Roman Polanski. I think this film kind of has a great debt to, there's this amazing film called The Tenant by Roman Polanski, which I think is beautiful. But this idea of like, I mean, you mentioned it, and I have memorized that monologue that Jeff Fahey kind of gives, where it's like, where does evil live? Does it live in the soul, in the mind? Maybe it's in the flesh. And like, I feel like I read a few too many reviews at the time when the movie came out, and people were just kind of like poo-pooing it for like trying to like address these larger issues. If you think about like where we are now versus where we were 30 years ago, like the idea of organ harvesting, body transplant surgery, like gene splicing, the kind of morality and ethics of the body, and the kind of autonomy of the body and the self and the soul. I feel like this movie was doing it in such a way that, I mean, it's surface, but it's at least kind of like positing these ideas in a way that maybe it was because I was 13, but I felt like this movie was profound in a way that like it's still seared its way into my consciousness, that I want to give it that kind of just due, that credit. But what's crazy is that this movie came out the summer of Dahmer. Like this was Jeffrey Dahmer territory. And I remember reading an article where the movie was getting promoted, this film called Body Parts, and there would be posters at like bus stops, bus stations. And where was Dahmer? Was that Milwaukee?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. So like there was this kind of like moment where people were like, oh my God, like in Milwaukee, we're seeing posters for a film called Body Parts. And that just feels too much, it's too soon, too close. And so Paramount, like some PR flack, and Paramount like panicked and like pulled the posters. And then all of a sudden it becomes this kind of national thing where like a news, an outlet kind of picks up on the story of like Paramount pulls Body Parts from Milwaukee because of, what happened down the street. And then I don't know if it really hurt the film or if the film was kind of destined to be doomed anyways because of, it's not like a very appealing film for people beyond the, fans of the genre.
Mhm.
But I mean, it just seems like what a strange time, to be kind of living in a summer of Dahmer, and here's this film that kind of comes out that is not anywhere near Dahmer territory, but on its surface is, I guess. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's just it kind of an interesting kind of like footnote for this film, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we both reacted as soon as he said it, so right there. But also, this is the kind of stuff that I always think about, like, how would it blow up on social media today?
Mhm.
And I think that it would help the film today because there would be people like me who would be like, oh, wow, that sounds fantastic, regardless of what's going on in the real world, and then obviously it would swing the other way as well. And, certain people would use it to ban things or whatever. But it's always fascinating to me. Like, even when we were talking about Hitchcock earlier, like, given the time that Hitchcock would have made it, because you said it was, what, a full decade earlier or even more than that.
God, yeah.
It would just change things, like it would change what you show or how you show it. It would probably not be hitting these deeper thoughts like you were just talking about, just because like we were burnt out on slashers or whatever at the time, and we were looking for something else. And I don't know.
Yeah.
So like all of that influences it as well. So I'm fascinated by how when a movie is released, how it could change things.
Yeah. I mean, I think this film didn't do well. I think it did well enough, but like I don't think that anybody had expectations that this film like I don't know. Like I always feel kind of a certain level of sympathy towards films, horror films in particular, when it's like, oh, they don't perform well, meaning they don't sell enough tickets, or they're not like number one at the box office. Like I feel like that has less to do with the quality of the film itself,
Yeah.
and more to do with just things like I don't know. Like I feel like we have to put less pressure on the movie to like perform. And this is a very lofty kind of like, highfalutin thing to say, but like, when I think of films, I think of them as kind of like art. And there's something to be said about, a movie finding its audience. And I know that like for everybody else, and in Hollywood, like it's a business and it's an industry. And in order to stay in business, these movies have to make money, and there has to be a return on investment. So like I know why they have to perform well, but like the thing that bums me out is when audience members factor in box office returns, and like that we're all kind of like armchair, what is it, like armchair weekend analysts.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah, like we're like somehow like the I love Body Parts, and I think Body Parts is a great movie. And at no point do I say, well, it didn't perform well on its second weekend, and therefore like it's an inferior film. Like it's just like, but like I think we do that. Like we celebrate, like, oh, it was number one at the box office. Like, hey guys, we all saw this movie. That's great, right? That makes it an amazing movie. I mean, I don't know. Like, it just bums me out when it's like the narrative of these films become like, oh, it bombed. Like that, like,
Right.
Like I get
Or
like,
people cheering for it to bomb.
Yeah. Well, that's like that's that, yeah. I don't know. I want to celebrate Body Parts. And I want to believe that the narrative can kind of transcend, that it can go beyond like, how did it perform its opening weekend? Did it go to number one? What was its box office? Like that stuff to me feels secondary as an audience member.
Mm-hmm.
If when I'm pitching movies and doing the kind of the film stuff, like I know that we have to incorporate that into the conversation. But like strictly as a fan, Body Parts is the best. And I don't care how it performed, damn it.
I think the only time that I personally care about how a movie performs is like take Godzilla -1, right? Like,
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't go see it for like 3 weeks. And I was like, please make enough money that you're still in the theater when I can go. That's literally the only time I care how a movie's doing, unless you have something like just the joy of seeing some movie that you don't expect knock a big movie out of the #1 spot. Like, that's always cool as well. But I'm still not focused on what it actually made. It's just that moment of, oh wow, that's cool. You know, but yeah, for me, you know, I don't make films that are in theaters, so I don't have any actual investment there. So that's the only time I care. I just want it to still be there when I can go see it.
Yeah. Total sidebar note. Funny story with like when we were all in lockdown and quarantine during COVID, there was this one micro budgeted film. I don't even know how. Maybe it was like $200,000. I can't even remember what the budget of the film was. But there was this film called The Wretched that came out, and it hit up, you know, because the distribution model had to kind of adjust to streaming, but also drive-ins really kind of had a moment, you know, during the pandemic. So this film that I think was like filmed in Michigan, maybe somewhere kind of up north, and it was just this like little indie film that hit up a lot of different drive-ins, and it landed smack dab in the middle of COVID, and it went to #1 in the box office. Like, so like all of the trade, the industry papers, like, you know, wherever any, you know, when the box office returns are tabulated, even during coronavirus, this little film called The Wretched, done by these two guys, I think they may be even brothers, I don't know, but like they made this film and it was #1 at the box office. And for now and forever, these two dudes can basically be like, we had the #1 movie in the country.
Isn't that awesome?
That's amazing. Like I feel like that's the win. That's when the box office is like, yeah, like that's, you know, #1 with a bullet, right?
So I just pulled this up on Wikipedia just because I wanted the numbers, and it's even more fun when you read it this way. It says, due to limited theater exposure and few films playing due to the COVID-19 pandemic, The Wretched was #1 at the box office on its opening weekend, earning $65,908 from 12 theaters. The film finished first again the following weekend with $69,608 at 19 theaters. That's so beautiful.
That's phenomenal. That's like the underdog story of the pandemic.
Absolutely.
I love that story.
And the budget looks like it was $66,000.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Beautiful.
There you go. Dreams can come true, guys. We can go to #1 at the box office.
We just need another plague. Oh, wait, no. Man. One thing I wanted to touch on, I really liked my favorite story, if you will, inside of this film is the artist who gets the arm and is suddenly making these amazing portraits. And I was like, holy shit, it's AI. He's stealing inspiration from others, creating art almost instantly, and just making bank without having to do anything. I mean, that's beautiful. It's AI in 1991.
But he even says, like, I don't know. It doesn't matter where the ideas come from.
I couldn't resist. And then makes it so beautiful.
He makes the challenge to the good doctor. Says, "Hey, you got the same images. Then you pick up a brush, pick up some paint, and show me."
Yeah, guys, we're burying the lead here, though. This artist is played by none other than Brad motherfucking Dourif, like Academy Award
jockey himself.
I mean, this this is like I feel like when you think of where Brad Dourif was in his career, this was post at least the first
one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first Child's Play. Post David Lynch, every David Lynch kind of movie that he was in, which was, there were a few. Pre kind of Brad Dourif renaissance that I think started with not Child's Play, but I think it started with Deadwood. I think Brad Dourif is a genius. I think he's an amazing actor who kind of had a fallow 80s and 90s era, where not many people were kind of giving him his, his kind of due. But this movie gave him such a wonderful time to like just play. Like, it is a hammy movie, and he's like the closest one to kind of like chewing the scenery, but he does it with such relish and such zeal. I like his southern kind of twang is still in there. Like it's still Brad Dourif, but he's like, like I was doing Cape Cod portraits, then I get this arm, and he's like, and then I get what is it? Dr. Webb gives me this gift, and I'm saying, I don't know where they come from. They just come to me, man. Like, I just
that was beautiful.
It's
that is awesome.
And he has the best. He has the best kind of cheeky line in the whole movie, where it's like, you've got that serial killer's arm, and Brad Dourif is like, so you want to arm wrestle me for it?
Yeah.
it's just like they knew they needed a Brad Dourif in this movie, and they got it. And like, he is a joy, such a gem.
Absolutely. I loved every second he was on the screen. Go ahead, Don.
No, I was gonna say I completely forgot about his full filmography, because he's in The Lord of the Rings. He was also in Mississippi Burning, and it was one of those things where I was like, he does each role so well. It's scary at how good he is at going from like really creepy to just like normal, or a scumbag, sleazebag, to the shoreside strangler.
But do you remember? Oh my God, why am I blanking on the Cuckoo? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Did you see? Like, he was Billy Bibbit. His first film role. I think it was his first. He was at least nominated for an Academy Award. I don't know if he won or not. I can't remember. But like, he was that little poor, that he had the stutter. He was the kind of linchpin character in that movie. And I feel like he was such a kind of like transfixing, like whenever he's on the screen, like whether it's a bit role, and it's always a bit role, like he's just so mesmerizing. And it's usually kind of a lecherous, kind of evil, sinister figure. But then like he's like the doctor in Deadwood, and he's, oh God, I don't know. He's beautiful. He's an amazing actor that I feel like should be put on a pedestal, as far as I'm concerned. Particularly for body parts.
It looks like he won a special award for Best Acting Debut in a Motion Picture for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, there you go.
That's awesome. I did not know that. I do love him in that. He's fantastic in that as well, obviously. Or, probably wouldn't get a special award. I don't get any special awards. Clay does, but I don't.
They just come to me, man. He has that like Tennessee twang. Like, I don't know where I get my ideas. They just come to me, man. If you knew where you get your inspiration, you better bottle and sell it in the store, man. He just shows up. He like does his lines. He chews through.
All right, shot for shot remake. It's you.
Yes. God, I would. I would just do my Brad Dourif impersonation, and I would eat it up.
We're changing Spirited Giving. You no longer have to do a reading. He will just reenact these scenes.
Oh my god. Yeah. I do think whenever you have a movie that has an artist in it and you show the actual art that the artist is making, if you're like, oh, this guy's a genius, like you always have to, that's a fine line, and I think it's a little tough. And like I remember kind of looking at the art and being kind of like, okay, that feels a little like I don't know if I would say like this guy's like, at the top of his game, but like I get it. I'm poo-pooing the art, basically, is what I'm doing.
Not just smiley faces and everybody's like, wow, look how amazing he is. That'd be pretty great too. Like that beautiful painting in Not Another Teen Movie, Don,
Oh my God. That's America's ass you're talking about, sir.
Go ahead, Clay.
No, but I just feel like we're kind of like doing choice cuts here. Literally, no pun intended. But I think Jeff Fahey has the most beautiful eyes of any B movie actor. I think like he is an actor who like he's good and he can get the job done, but I think he has great eyes. Like I love his eyes. I think there's a bit role by this one actor named Paul Ben Victor, who plays the death row inmate, the guy who like Jeff Fahey's character is this psychologist, like he's coming, like he does these kind of like sessions with death row inmates, and I think it's only like he's only in the movie for 2 scenes, but what is it? Paul Ben Victor, he's got this amazing scene where like he's like, I mean it's he overacts it like nobody's business, but it's so amazing where he's just like talking about like why he does what he did, and I don't know, like I don't know, like if I go to heaven, I just want it to be populated with all of these amazing character actors from these horror movies, like Brad Dourif and Paul Ben Victor.
I love I feel great. It's fucking fantastic, it's just so beautiful. Like,
yeah. Can you help me, man? Can you help me? Can you? Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's just like he just like like he's just like yeah. Like I want a career like that where it's like your job is basically to show up in movies and be the weird, like just the weirdest guy imaginable, Like anybody could have been that serial killer, but they brought in Paul Ben Victor, and he's just like, can you help me, man? Can you help me? I don't know. He just 0 to 60s that shit, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
I think that's what's so good about this script, and we kind of talked about it a little bit already, but like the emotion that you get from every character, like every side character, you can feel that they're real versus they're just there for 30 seconds. Like you don't even notice how little screen time this dude gets. He affects you, and everybody's that way. Like the scene with the mom reacting when the main guy hits the kid, like there's such a shift in her whole character, as there should be. And there's so much to her that makes her well-rounded in just a couple lines and the looks that she's giving him.
Yeah. Wait, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's Kim Delaney. And was she in China Beach? Was she in the TV series China Beach? I can't
know.
I just looked at her filmography as far as where she was, and it was either some medical or law show that she was on.
Okay. She was in a long like a series.
Oh, she was NYPD Blue. That's what she was in.
Huh.
There was that, and then I know there was something else that she was really known from. But yeah, as soon as I saw her, I'm like, I know her.
Yeah,
I know her.
It's funny that we mention all of these characters kind of feeling like they're lived in, and like I feel as if the one character that doesn't get that. And like oddly, I feel like is probably like somewhere on the cutting room floor. But like the doctor, we talk about was Dr. Agatha Webb,
Mm-hmm.
the British Lindsay Duncan, I think is her name. She like the things like if she is the Frankenstein here, I feel like there's so much of what her character is doing behind the scenes that is not in the actual film. So like, you know, you have these choice moments where Jeff Fahey's character comes in and he's like, get this arm off of me. And she's like, you know, I am not going to stop, you know, halt the progress of science. And, you know, like, but like, she goes 0 to 60 in this way where it's like, oh my God, has she been doing this, like planning this the whole time? Was this like I feel like there's so much of like her arc that is behind the scenes that is not on screen that I wish, I want to believe there was more in the script or more in the cutting room floor, but like, yeah, I always kind of marvel at her inverted arc because I feel like there's more to be desired there, more story.
I feel like part of that's probably to hide the reveal, but yeah, it comes off a little cheap, and her part just seems weird. My bigger question was like, why did she do this? If she had the power to bring him back to life, or however you want to put it, like all the limbs are alive and his head is alive, why did she cut him up to begin with? Why didn't she just keep the body? I don't understand. And that's my biggest, it's not a complaint because I love the movie as it is, but I'm just like, what? I just want like some answer to that. Like his torso was fucked. There was nothing we could do, you know?
I mean, the movie doesn't posit this, but I feel like my interpretation is like she is a mad scientist and wanted to do it. Like, I want to take this apart and put it back together again and see if it works. Like there's like a certain kind of like the experiment to her is, oh, look what I can do. I can disassemble this human being and they can live autonomously from one another, but then they can kind of reunite. Like that is my thought, like my interpretation of where her character goes, because the movie doesn't afford anything. But there is, I mean, am I remembering correctly that there is like a slightly sensual moment between the doctor and what is it, Charlie Fletcher, where he comes back and she's like, oh, like kind of, it's like reverential, but also like almost like turned on by this monstrosity, and she just lets him. It's like, you can go and do whatever you want, hun. Like, go, like, get your body parts back. You go. I'll be here waiting for you, and we'll put you back together again.
See, I almost wondered if it was like she set out to do what's originally done here, and then he returned, or you know, she attached the head, and then he was like, no, I want my shit back. And then she had to do that part. But I mean, obviously we won't know. And I still want to know, like, did she keep his penis? I mean, that's the real question.
God damn you, James. No, the real question is, did she teach him putting on the Ritz?
Oh God.
No.
There's this one of my favorite scenes. There's so many favorite scenes, but one of my favorites is he's pretty much gotten all of the body parts back except Jeff Fahey's arm, and there's been this phenomenally cheeseball, like counterintuitive car chase where I don't know why his thinking is to like handcuff his arm to Jeff Fahey's arm in a different car, which like ensuing in this like breakneck kind of tense car chase of two men handcuffed in separate cars, and like, you know, they're like veering down. It's so comical. But then like he veers off, like they shoot the handcuffs off, so like they break free, and like the Charlie Fletcher serial killer head, basically, who has all of these body parts in the fucking car. Like he has the legs in the back seat. He has a leg on the dashboard. It's like just like the car itself is just so bloody and gungy, and like they're just all there. And then he like wrecks, and there's like an explosion, and he's still in the car, and he's like scrambling to get all of his body parts out before they get cooked. And he's like really kind of like awkwardly, he's like, it's almost goofy because he's like, oh, like he's like oddly like clumsy about it, and he's just like, oh, my body parts, and he like grabs them, and it's such a beautiful shot because the frame rate is slowed down. It's a slow motion shot. The Charlie Fletcher character is kind of like lumbering down the road from his burnt out car, carrying 2 ripped off legs, 1 ripped off arm, and the car explodes behind him, and he like the sheer force of it kind of pushes him down, and he like drops all of his body parts. And it's like, for some reason, that shot, that slow motion shot of a man, like a transplanted head on a body who we don't know whose body that is like he's losing his, like he's dropping his groceries, like they're like all like flump to the floor, and like I don't know, like that's the Frankenstein moment to me. It's like that kind of awkward, clumsy, uncoordinated, but like brutal and violent and bloody and grotesque. Like I just love, like, that's the humanity of this movie to me. I love it.
That scene is just beautiful. And there's something so great, like the car's on fire and he's like, oh, gotta grab my legs. Like, I don't know. Like, that's the kind of humor that works so well for me, because it's just that situational humor.
Yeah.
Of this shouldn't be funny, but how ridiculous is this shit? You know,
I don't think the movie. I think the movie is playing it so straight, like almost to a fault. Like, it's funny to us because it's just so like absurd. It is just so absurd. I cannot, for the life of me, believe that Eric Red is in on the joke. Like, I believe he's doing it straight, and that adds to the absurdity.
Yeah, that somehow makes it so much better.
Yes. Like it just feels like there's something pure in its like earnestness, and I don't know, like that's what makes this movie so good. And of course, that's what all the critics hated about it. Like, it's like, this movie is so, like, they found fault in it for taking itself too seriously. Like, they're like, this is laughable. And I feel like with time, you can kind of embrace it for its earnestness. It's earnest horror. Damn it.
I love it.
Well, I'm going to ask the two of you this question. It's an important question. If you were to go through a body transplant, appendages, James, limbs.
Yeah, like my middle fingers when they were replaced by Charles Manson's. Yes.
What part of your body would you be willing to donate?
Oh man. I don't know. Can I give off my excess weight? Like,
are you organ donors?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I figure I won't care at that point, but now I'm not so sure.
I'm an organ donor, and there's that weird moment where you say to yourself, "Oh wow, like I could be out there in someone else."
Right. All right. Well, I'll flip it for you, just to play with this one a little bit more.
Can I do my left leg? That's the tattoo I don't like the most. So, like, I could start over.
Jesus. Well, I guess that you'll give me the same answer. I was going to say, what part of your body would you want to replace? Limbs, James. Limbs.
Legitimately, maybe my knees. I've had a lot of knee issues throughout my life, and I've dislocated them several times and torn meniscuses and all kinds of shit. So maybe that would help me out.
Okay.
I don't know.
Clay, what do you think?
Now I'm thinking of my knees too.
When we all get to a certain age, we just think lower back and knees.
Oh God, I see it coming too. Like that's the scary thing. Like it's on the horizon. Um, I mean, I would totally. If I'm, I'm not precious about my body per se. Like if I needed a new arm, I'd take a new arm. If I could give an arm, I'd give an arm. I'm a lefty, so maybe I would want to keep and protect my left hand. But everything else I think is up for grabs.
Okay.
You want it? I got it for you, man. I got your back. I do think that a genuinely amazing scene, just in terms of its kind of structure, its architecture, is when Jeff Fahey's character goes into the police office and he basically like asks to be fingerprinted. He's like, "Can you fingerprint me?" And I mean, what it kind of defies a certain logic that the film doesn't really play, which is like this guy Jeff Fahey's character is like absurdly oblivious to whose hand he has. Like I feel like at some point like during the kind of montage of his PT, that like he would have to ask at some point, whose hand is this? But like at no point does that become an issue for him until strange things happen, which is like so far down the road. But like barring that, like when he goes to the police department and he gets fingerprinted and like on the computer, it's just like one criminal activity after another of like, grand larceny, rape, murder, like, like, and it's just like that scene is just so exquisite. And it's like the dawning horror of Jeff Fahey's character being like, oh my God, whose hand is this? And then he sees himself on this version of him now. I just thought that was amazing.
Well, that and the other guy that he had been counseling or dealing with prior to that, when he sees the tattoo on his arm, he like freaks out. He's like, oh man, that's the type of tattoo you get on death row. Who are you, man? What's going on here?
I don't want to talk to you anymore. Oh, you gonna? That's the Paul Ben Victor. He's like, you got to be on death row to get that tattoo, man. Who are you?
It seems like something that would make you question it, right?
Yeah.
Guard. The last two things I want to throw out there is that Shout Factory did a really wonderful DVD Blu-ray edition of it, and there are two scenes. I want to genuinely believe there's a lot that they just didn't film. Like I feel like this could have been a longer film, but there are two scenes that exist on YouTube or on the internets that you can kind of find, which are they're not so much deleted scenes as like extended scenes. And it's so beautiful, but they're oddly the same. And I wish they had kept them in, but like, there is the car crash scene, the accident scene where Jeff Fahey's character is kind of driving down this like cold highway. It's like winter, like it feels very crisp. And he's like talking into a cassette recorder, like a mini portable cassette recorder, like taking notes. And he sees a tire up ahead that is, wobbling on a car in front of him. And you can see the kind of dawning dread of like, oh my God, what's going to happen? That car, like that tire is going to pop or something's going to happen. And it does. And it's an amazing scene because it's like, you have the moment where he, like the car tire kind of snaps. Jeff Fahey's character like slams on the brakes. Like you think that he's like this moment, this like near death moment of like hitting this car, like it's come and gone. But then he looks in the rear view mirror and he sees this 16 wheeler, like just like like slam into the back of his
Mhm.
car, just completely pulverize it. And like, just in the chronology of amazing car crash scenes, like this was pre Final Destination 2,
Right.
which I think does hold the high watermark of best car crash scenes ever. But like before that one, this definitely kind of did it. And what was cut out of this scene is that, Jeff Fahey's character is kind of slammed and pushed through the front windshield. He like flies through the air. You see his body land and hit the street in such a grotesque, terrifying way. But then the cut moment is that you see Jeff Fahey kind of like smushed and pulverized on the pavement, and he's like looking ahead of himself, and the camera pulls back, and you see his hand is like, you see his arm actually severed from his body. It's like it's on the pavement, it's on the road, and it's still moving, and like the nerves in the hand are kind of like it's crawling away from Jeff Fahey. And
Wow.
like, it's such a great moment because like you see him looking at his hand, which is yards away from him, but then the cherry on top, and this is it is so absurd, it's so funny. Another 16-wheeler like just drives by and fucking runs over his arm.
Oh, that scene's made for me. That's amazing.
Completely smushes it, pulverizes it, and it's just like, it is so friggin' hilarious because it's like you take a terrifying moment, like a grotesque moment with this car crash, and then you see him seeing himself crawling away from himself, and then cherry on top, smush. It's beautiful. It's friggin' beautiful. I love it. That's one. That's like edited cut scene, deleted scene 1. The other deleted scene, and I swear I'll shut up.
You're fine.
No, but it's just amazing. I just love this stuff.
You
Look, I'm
did
just in here
make
listening.
Yeah, you did just make me think of one of my favorite death scenes, which is in Meet Joe Black when he gets hit by the taxis.
Oh my God, yes. Remember that? That was a beautiful, because it's like bump bump. Like, doesn't he like hit a car and it like bounces and hits another car?
Yes.
Bump bump. Oh God, I remember
But that's what the second 16-wheeler made me think of, 18-wheeler, whatever they're called, made me think of. Yeah.
Oh God, it's so glorious. But then in the transplant scene, when they're, we talked about that beautiful moment where the head is severed and it's cut off, and like that's when the lead detective kind of snaps his fingers and all the police officers leave. There's this really amazing shot, and I can't believe they cut this from the movie, but it's an overhead shot of basically it's a bird's eye of the arm, Charlie Fletcher's arm on a gurney, and the camera pivots away from the body of Charlie Fletcher, and it follows the arm as the gurney is wheeled over to Jeff Fahey's character as he's about to receive this arm.
And it's amazing.
God, but even crazier is that the arm itself is still moving. It's doing that same thing where it's like, the kind of lizard's tail where like a what is it? Like a lizard's tail snaps off and like the nerves, like it's still kind of twisting and moving around. Like it's beautiful because like the camera, it almost feels like a David Fincher angle because it's really kind of mechanical in its movement. Like it's not fluid. It's actually kind of very geometric where like it just kind of pivots and you're just following the arm getting wheeled from one body to the next, but the hand itself is moving. And it's just, oh God, like you could go to YouTube and watch these scenes right now. Like they're there, and I would wholeheartedly recommend them. And I curse whatever studio executive or editor decided to cut those scenes because they're glorious scenes.
And that's also just so much like foreshadowing and just good storytelling. Like the fact that the arm's moving immediately sets you up for where all of this is going.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they cut it. I mean, maybe it's just too much foreshadowing, but like, I just want more. I would totally watch the director's cut of this film a million times.
Nice. All right. I suppose that brings us to movie recs then. So, Clay, since you are the guest, if people liked this, what else should they be watching?
Oh my God. Well, they have to watch this movie 5 times back to back. And then they have to watch the other 2 body parts, right? If I'm being serious, I think that like there was a period in the 90s, early 90s, where like nobody was doing slashers and nobody knew what was coming next. So there was like this great period of like all of these like singular one-offs that had no sequels, that had nothing. And I'm thinking of like filmmakers like Richard Stanley, and he did these 2 films, Hardware and Dust Devil. Those are 2 movies that I would recommend.
Nice. I came in here with one double feature and I'm going to change it, but I'm going to tell you both of them. So when I decided to come in here today, I was going to say Lisa Frankenstein because I like, the Frankenstein elements of this and I think they'd be fun together. But the more I've thought about the time period of these films and like, just the overall storytelling, I think a fantastic double feature for this would be Frankenhooker. I think Frankenhooker and body parts together would just be fucking fantastic.
Amazing.
All right, John, what are your 782 movies?
Let me cross off Frankenhooker. Because I was like, he's going to go for Lisa Frankenstein. I know him. And he didn't. Because he's a horrible person. So let's go with Nightbreed, Body Bags, Dr. Giggles, Body Snatchers, People Under the Stairs, Prince of Darkness, Psycho, a lot of elements that I saw there.
And that pulls into
In the Mouth of Madness. Oh, yeah. Jennifer's Body, High Tension, Body Snatchers, Vamp. Actually, let me take Vamp off because that was with the other movie. Other ridiculous, fun horror 80s movies, The Stuff, Society, Return of the Living Dead, like all came to mind. The entirety of Child's Play, all of them, all the way through Cult of Chucky. I'm going to save this other one for last. But the Final Destination series, Face Off, a film that I've mentioned before, which it's a great B movie. I know that's an oxymoron, but I'm going to say it's a great B movie. The movie Hunk, where, you take possession of somebody else's body to become them. Of course, the other two Body Parts films, I would definitely recommend the Lloyd Kaufman version, as well as the documentary version that talks about the commodification of people's bodies, specifically women's bodies. Thinner. I love Thinner. Simpsons story Hell to Pay, which as soon as I saw this, I was like, Treehouse of Horror or Treehouse of Terror. Jurassic Park, Frankenstein, both old and young, Delicatessen, and last but not least, Dr. Strangelove.
Interesting.
And Dr. Strangelove fits with both 1991 versions of Body Parts. When you watch those movies, you have to then tell me how they both fit. How Dr. Strangelove fits in with both of those films.
All right. I haven't seen the other one, but I'm going to go with the guy we did not talk about who got the legs. And the moment when Strangelove stands up and I can walk.
That's my Well, there's that, and there's also the idea of progress through science, right?
Nice.
And the fact that you've got the U.S. was so willing to beat the Soviet Union that they decided, you know what? Not all you Nazis are bad. Let's go ahead and bring you guys here to help us out.
Oh man!
And you ended up creating a bigger monster because all those Nazis had kids, and they didn't necessarily break away from Nazi ideology. But hey, we wouldn't have NASA.
So let's bring it back to you, Clay. Where can people find you on social media, buy your books, and anything else that you want to push one more time, since I'm forcing you to do so?
I'm pretty Googleable. I'm on those social media sites. Like I still do Twitter and Instagram. I'm trying to figure out Threads and Blue Sky. Trying to figure out TikTok. Doing terrible. I have a novel called What Kind of Mother that comes out in paperback soon, but the hardback is still out there if you're looking for something spooky to read. Stay on the Line comes out in July. And there's that Spirited Given in May. That'll be a fun thing to do.
Woohoo! I'm definitely looking forward to it. All right. I suppose that wraps it up for another week then. As always, I'm James Sabata.
And are we not switching bodies? I thought that was the whole thing of this episode.
And we will see you next week here at thenecronama.com.